All right, folks, a lot is going on in the world as always, and we'll be talking about that here on World Edition here on Pod TV, and we'll see if a guest that was going to be coming in from Britain that was going to talk about neurodiversity shows up or it doesn't, but definitely that'll be an interesting conversation. And by the way, on the online dinner party yesterday, I had one of my guests that said, because I know we were wondering if this was going to be the case, that they will be having a parade for the Navy and I believe the Air Force. So some of the other armed force branches, but it'll be in Philadelphia. As a matter of fact, the young lady who was the guest was one of the planners. As a matter of fact, I think she'll be the one of the main organizers of that parade. So I think it's coming up in several months. I think she said in either August or September. I've got to remember and all along those lines. But you can go back and watch that episode and see when she was talking about that in the early part of the show. So definitely it does look like there will be some salute to some of the other military folks as well. She was also a race car driver and done some other interesting things also. And then we had two doctors as well as a friend of mine that is in the wholeness space or the wellness space in terms of female medicine and all along those lines, or female care, I should say, not even medicine. But definitely that was a good conversation on yesterday's online dinner party. But as far as the news, Israeli hospital has been hit by an Iranian missile strike. So Israel vows to intensify attacks after Iranian missile hits the hospital. So Israel seeks retaliation as Iran hits that hospital. And by the way, today the U.S. is marking Juneteenth, which is the end of slavery. I know that there was a Juneteenth event scheduled for Haiti on Friday, but unfortunately we had to have it moved by the people that were doing that to a different location. It'll be at Peace Baptist, and then the other part of the celebration will be on North Carolina Central University's campus. But the gospel concert part will not be at the Cultural Arts Center that I work at. It'll be at a local church. I believe it's a Baptist affiliated, if I remember correctly. Israelis threatened to eliminate Khamenei after Iranian missile strike. So Netanyahu is at Soroka, says no one in Iran, including Khamenei, is immune. So that's something that we're hearing in the news as well. And Spain, which is where Nick is threatening to derail NATO's Trump appeasement summit. So definitely how to make NATO more European, as was reported in the Foreign Affairs. The Supreme Allied Commander for Europe should also be from Europe. So definitely it looks like trying to satisfy Trump. NATO is running into difficulties. So NATO allies must lift military spending to more than 3.5% of GDP, according to what the U.S. Senate has been told. And there's even reports that Britain could help Trump hit Iran's nuclear sites without deploying UK forces. So Priti Patel calls on the government to repatriate Britons in Israel. I may do it, I may not. Donald Trump taunts Iran over airstrike as Starmer holds a Cobra meeting. So definitely it looks like Starmer is putting the UK cabinet on alert for a potential U.S. attack on Iran. So there may be a U.S. attack on Iran. And Iranian Cannes winners, as well as Oscar nominee, calls for an end to the Israel-Iran conflict. So Iranian Palme d'Or winner Jafar Panahi calls for fall of terrain regime. So there is even some dissent within the Iranian government as well. And Pei Tongtarn Shinawatra faces calls to resign after a leaked phone call. So that is something else that people are talking about, and this is from Thailand. So Thailand's prime minister faces calls to resign after the leak. So the Thai prime minister faces calls to quit after leaked phone calls, and how a leaked phone call became between a former strongman and a young leader could topple that particular government. And there's still investigations in India. Aviation experts are investigating the cause of the Air India crash and all along those lines. So that's definitely something that people are talking about as well. And the Gulf states were caught off guard by the speed of Israel's Iran attack. So Israel airstrike aims to break the foundation of Khamenei's rule over there in Iran. So definitely lots going over there in the Middle East and all along those lines. And no Sting, no Mercedes, a Russian expo shows the cost of the divorce with the West. So Vladimir Putin's investment forum fails to attract Western companies. So in St. Petersburg, Putin's Davos features the Kremlin elite and their allies. So there was a St. Petersburg Economic Forum 2025 that opened with multipolar focuses. So that's something that folks are talking about. But apparently, a lot of the Western businesses were not there because they're still upset, and quite rightfully so, over the attack on Ukraine. So that's definitely something that people are talking about as well. And a SpaceX rocket explodes in a new setback to Elon Musk Mars project. So the SpaceX Starship exploded on the Texas launch site. So that's definitely something that's in the news as well. And not guilty. Jury clears Karen Read of murder, leaves only the OUI conviction. So definitely it looks like they unpacked on CNN the second trial and verdict that cleared Karen Read of murder. So definitely that's something that people are talking about as well in the news. And like I said, it is the celebration of Juneteenth. And was in Allen City where Juneteenth was born. And that's when the announcement finally got to the slaves that they were free and all along those lines. So it is a federal holiday today and all in that space. So it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that. And the U.S. Supreme Court rules against transgender rights in a Tennessee case. So with transgender care ruling, Chief Justice Roberts tries to avoid extremes. And Amy Coney Barrett made an unexpected move in the Supreme Court. So the case was U.S. versus Skermeti, how the transgender rights movement bet on the Supreme Court and all along those lines. So definitely that's some of the things that are going on as well. And the DNC is in chaos and desperate for cash under Ken Martin. So weak, whiny, and invisible. Critics of DNC chair Ken Martin are savaging his tenure, and Democrats are lamenting the party drama and lack of unity as frustration with the DNC grows. So that's something else that people are talking about as well. So definitely lots going on in the world and around the world in that space. And by the way, Hurricane Eric, that's with both a C and a K, has intensified and is threatening the Mexico coast. So it's strengthened into a Category 4 major hurricane approaching the Mexico coast. So that's something else that is in the news as well. And the National Weather Service is warning of extreme heat across the U.S. Matter of fact, I looked at the forecast here in Durham, and I think today will be in the 90s and very hot and everything. But I saw some days later in the week, and maybe even into next week, where it's going to be in those triple figures, like the hundreds and ones, and all along those lines. So it looks like a heat dome will blanket much of the U.S. with worrisome temperatures in the Midwest. So the U.S. heat wave forecast. So it looks like there's going to be this weather in the Northeast, the Midwest, and it could damage dozens or smash dozens of records, including records in New York, Philly, and Chicago. So it looks like we're just going to be stuck with some hot weather for a while. And Pawlenty pushes back on claims linking Walz to the suspect in the shooting over there. He's right there, how the Minnesota attacks and manhunt unfolded. So definitely people are still looking into that Minnesota case as well. And ICE raids and their uncertainty are scaring off workers and baffling businesses. So Trump reverses reprieve for immigrants in agriculture and hotels, he said, are good long-term workers. So matter of fact, I think it was Kim sent a tape where they were raising the flagpole, and I think there was one Hispanic gentleman that was in the picture, and it didn't seem like he even addressed him at all, and all along those lines. So maybe I shouldn't have been surprised by that. Salt Lake City volunteers' account of deadly shooting questioned after a new video. So, man killed while protesting in No Kings rally was a Project Runway contestant. So, definitely looks like he had already had some fame, and then he's unfortunately had this unfortunate end, and all along those lines. And Seth Meyers wishes Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz could both lose. So, definitely he's just wishing that they both could lose in that particular race and along those lines. And the wife of the Colorado attack suspect says she and her 5 children are suffering, and it looks like that could be ICE related as well. So, like I said, we're going to bring in some other folks into the conversation, see what they've got going on. Was expecting a guest, but I haven't heard from them, so maybe they'll be in later on this week, or maybe they'll come on later today. But I'll see what Rick Rosner's got going on in his world and what John's got going on in Canada. And I do see that Nick is here as well, and maybe he'll join the conversation at some later time also. So how are things going in your world, Rick?
Fine. The Dodgers bought the Lakers,
I
so
saw that.
So they should give Ohtani a 1 week contract with the Lakers just for the crossover, the media circus.
The media circus. I did see that in the news. I also saw that, which is unusual, that and there wasn't any players exchange, but the Pacers and the Pelicans actually had a trade, even though the Pacers are in the middle of a playoff right now. They're down 3-2 and they play later tonight. But I think last year there was a trade too with the teams that were involved, and it's usually trades of picks because not this weekend, but next weekend will be the NBA draft and everything. So they were saying that that's not all that common, but it does happen on occasion and everything like that. So that was an interesting story that I did see in the news
Let's see, it's
as
hot.
well.
It's 8 a.m. in Phoenix, and it's already 87, and it'll get up to between 111 and 117 there today.
Oh wow. What's it like in Canada? Are y'all in the middle of this heat wave as well, John, or not? Because, like I said, it was. Did I go out yesterday? Yeah, I did go out to the store that's up near me and everything like that. And then the day before, I had to run some errands, so I definitely went out. And both days were hot. Matter of fact, I got a friend that wants me to go out this evening to run an errand for them, and I've got to decide if I want to do that in the course of the heat because it's definitely been hot.
No, it's actually yesterday it rained for most of the day,
Okay.
and this morning it's drizzling, not hot, warm, but actually after the rain, before it rained yesterday it was a bit muggy, but after the rain it cooled down. So
Well, we seems like we're in the middle, possibly because of the Iran-Israel conflict, of a expanded war. I hear that Trump's thinking about making a strike and everything like that. I think the Russian president made a warning or gave a warning that we could be having the clock narrowing in terms of a nuclear conflict and everything like that. So I just wondering how you two gentlemen feeling about this. Do you have any worries about it and everything? Because every time I turn around, it does seem like the people are talking about making a further strike on Iran
On
involving.
this, like you, I'm a little like Trump. It depends on the last article I read or the last person I talked to. Like, so, yeah, nobody wants Iran to have nukes
Right.
because, but people have been saying they're about a week away from having a nuke since the 1980s. So it's hard to know. And even if you drop bunker busters on their nuclear facilities, does that, yeah, it wrecks their centrifuges that they need to enrich uranium, but it doesn't mean that they haven't already driven away from the centrifuges with their, the amount of uranium it takes to make a bomb, can fit inside a basketball. So it's easy to hide that in a country that's what, 800 miles across, about the size maybe of Texas, or so I don't know what to think.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know what to think in that space. How concerned are you two gentlemen about your security? I got an email from a family friend. It's actually my dad's other half, and all along those lines, it was about this massive cyber breach that involved passwords, and it involved, I think, millions, if not billions, of passwords. So they were concerned that people might need to be changing their passwords. And then, like I said, the Thailand government is in crisis because there was a leaked phone call. So how worried are you about either your emails or your phone calls? Because, like I said,
I got hacked last month and had to change all my passwords, and they charged a bunch of stuff to my various accounts, but the algorithm was good. They tried to charge it, but the security algorithm said, well, this doesn't look like your normal purchasing pattern, and it swatted back most of the transactions. Ditto for my kid. My kid got her wallet stolen. They immediately took her credit card to the Apple store, to a department store, to the grocery store. And again, the algorithm, she's in London, so this happened in the afternoon, which is 5 a.m. our time. We started getting phone calls and text messages, and the algorithm swatted away all these. So yeah, it's bad out there, but the security algorithms are good.
sounds like they're very good and all along those lines and everything in that way. So that's very good to hear. And
John's got a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
yeah, one of the reasons I love attending these sessions when I can make it is pushing back on Nikki. Nikki, if you're in the background, please show yourself if you want. Yesterday, Nikki made a claim that Democrats keep losing the presidential elections.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, I'm going to push back. Since 2008, Democrats have won 3 out of the 5 U.S. presidential elections. I'll just post that in the chat.
That's true, and maybe he'll come out
I'll
there.
keep doing that. I'll just keep pushing and challenging dubious claims from our host.
And we're an equally divided nation.
Right.
Nobody has gotten more than 53% of the popular vote since 1988, which is kind of sad because when you look at the strength of the various candidates, like Trump is an obviously terrible frickin' candidate that is propped up by right-wing media. If Fox News went away, he would lose.
What are you thinking about the Democratic leadership? Because one of the stories I mentioned is that there is some frustration, not that there isn't frustration on both sides of the aisle and everything, with the current leadership of the Democratic Party.
They embody the saying, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Mm-hmm. Trump's approval is tanking again. He almost never has positive approval. This should be a huge opportunity for the Dems. They need to get their crap together. One problem that the Dems have is the big tent issue, where Republicans have slid hugely to the right, leaving the rest of this field open for conservative Dems, all the way over to super liberal lunatic Dems, and it's hard to get them to agree on anything. And they need strong leadership who says, who takes some kind of middle ground and says, if you don't like it, Bernie Bros or what, or socialists or neocons, suck it. This is the message we need to push to get out the vote. And so.
And I saw that I was looking at some social media yesterday, and it might have happened a couple of days ago, but apparently your former boss, Rick and everything, has been in a war of words with both Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene. So what's up with that? Because it seems like Jimmy Kimmel is back in the news because he's having a war of words with those and everything. So,
all right. So I shouldn't talk too much about this, because I signed an NDA when I left Kimmel. But the philosophy of all late night hosts used to be politically neutral. Nobody should be able to tell what political party you belong to from your late night monologues. You would see this with Leno. Nobody knew who Leno voted for. And it used to be nobody knew who Colbert and Kimmel and the rest of the late night guys voted for, because you don't want to alienate half of your audience.
Right.
With Kimmel, a couple things happened that made him more outspoken. One thing was, remember that guy who got up in the tower at like Mandalay Bay in Vegas and shot 500 people at a concert in the parking lot, killing more than 50 of them?
Yes, I remember that case.
Now, that's Kimmel's hometown. Kimmel moved from Brooklyn to Vegas when he was 10 years old. He loves Vegas. He loves the people of Vegas, and that hurt him deeply and made him super pissed off that we still, don't have decent, that we can't pass any gun control legislation. So he spoke out about it. Mm-hmm. Another thing that happened was that he had a kid who had congenital heart issues, who needed a couple operations, and that made him speak out in favor of medical care for kids. And Kimmel is a super decent guy. He's a good Catholic. And it hurts him to see people treated like shit. So he started speaking out. And also, they weren't the late night shows weren't gonna hold the MAGAs anyway, because the MAGAs have pulled, away into a world of their own, and they're watching Gutfeld, which is Fox News's attempt to do a late night funny show. And if you watch it, you'll have to hold your head at how bad the attempts at humor are, but it gets high ratings because it's for the MAGAs.
It's for a set group and everything like that. Just one other news story that I saw. I know that sometimes we've had people from Australia, and in the past we used to have people from New Zealand, and it looks like New Zealand has halted money to a specific nation over its China ties. So New Zealand is halting its Cook Island funding over the China deal. So apparently China, I guess, was giving money to Cook Island, and now New Zealand is going to halt some of its money to that area because it's got ties to China, because we do know that China is putting its arm and tentacles around various parts of the country and everything like that. So it looks like it could have impacted this small nation.
Okay. But back to Trump for a second. Trump
Yes.
embodies the saying, sucks all the oxygen out of the room. And that's true for late night shows. Trump is constantly doing stuff that's ridiculous or dangerous, or just he takes up a lot of the news, which is an issue for late night shows, because then they have to do Trump every day. Like last night, they reported on, we might be going to war against Iran.
Mm-hmm.
But Trump was out there on the White House lawn with this huge announcement. The huge announcement was he was putting up 100-foot flagpoles on the,
right.
And so last night Colbert and Kimmel had to deal with the flagpoles, and they accidentally each told the same joke, because Trump got out there on the lawn and said, we call this lifting the poles. And he says there's another word for it. It begins with E, meaning erecting. But Kimmel and Colbert said, what could the E word be? Is it Eric?
Eric's the pole and everything like that. It could be.
And I would suspect that the people who work on late night shows are sick of having to deal with Trump every day. And probably, we as Americans are sick of it. But it's what's out there. I remember, when Michael Jackson was in court and in and out of court for months at a time, and it was hard and a little depressing to come up with Michael Jackson jokes every day.
That would be depressing and everything. By the way, we know that, speaking of Trump, that Trump said he could end the Ukraine-Russia war, and now his good friend Putin is making a similar claim, because as Trump considers striking Iran, Russia is warning that the world is millimeters away from a nuclear catastrophe, and Putin says Russia could help broker a deal between Iran and Israel. So he's thinking that they can be the brokers of the deal, much the way that Trump said he could broker the deal between Ukraine and Russia. So what is our thoughts about Putin offering to be a diplomat?
Well, that's good. Good start, Mark. Of course, he could be a diplomat. Anybody can be a diplomat, including Vladimir Putin. But I'll believe it when I see it. I did see the Supreme Court decision on transgender. Why do they always call it transgender care? Okay, they're basically manipulating young men, young women, and switching their sexual identity. But I think the Supreme Court got it right. Wait till they're 18. Then they can make their decision. But
Nick, how are they switching their identity? I mean, in fact, my next door neighbor, not the current, hold on a second. My next door neighbor, not the current next door neighbor, but the one 2 or 3 neighbors ago was transgender, and I just actually ran into him yesterday because he was going to a restaurant as I was leaving the restaurant and everything. So, and he made that choice years ago. He's in the hair care business and all along those lines, but he made that choice on his own to make that switch. And I know a friend of mine that is a performer, and they made that choice themselves.
I think the Supreme Court got it right. When they're 18, they can go make the choice. But minors, you don't want to mess with minors. I mean, that's
a responsible gender care clinic, which I'm sure the majority of the places.
We can change the wording to screwing up people's gender instead of gender.
Right, but the deal is that
nobody liberal bent on it. Let's put it what it is. You're screwing up people's gender, not gender care.
But how many people in those institutions you're talking about are actually teenagers or kids or don't or have the?
All right, so
that's my question.
The gender care centers and whatever you want to call them, they minimize the messing with the under 18s. Now they hold on, come on. So yeah, they in the past they did do some puberty blockers because they were thought to be safe, but I think the science is changing, so I think there's less intervention using puberty blockers. But I gotta say that like I have been getting gender conforming care for 50 years. I took steroids when I was a kid because I wanted to be more manly. That's gender conforming. I'm just lucky that I'm a guy and I want to be more of a guy. And I did crazy crap and I continue to do crazy crap to be as manly as possible. I cut scars into my chest to look like Rambo. I did all sorts of crazy freaking stuff that is not that different from what trans people do to conform to their idea of themselves. And yeah, responsible medical clinics work with the kids and work with the parents to figure out what is real and what is a kid going through a phase. And, my wife has worked in private high schools in the past few years. And yeah, there's a lot of trans stuff going around, and it's everybody's job to help kids sort it out and to see what's bullshit and what is a serious issue. And if I were in high school now, if I were 15 years old, I would do stuff. I'd wear nail polish because I would think that a girl would think that I was a cool guy if I had nail polish on, and she might make out with me.
Why are conservatives so interested in who somebody else is sleeping with?
What do you mean? Interesting.
I mean, you're so concerned over
genitalia.
Yeah, I mean, somebody else's. As John said, and I mean, why are you so concerned over somebody else?
Why are conservatives interested in the fabric of society? Is that what you're trying to ask?
So the fabric.
I don't like when somebody jumps up and says, "I'm a single mom."
Wait.
You're a hero.
That's not the question I
You're
asked.
not a hero. You made a mistake.
Not answering the question.
Nick, the fabric you consider.
I like society to be uniform.
Nick, hey Nick.
You guys like chaos.
Hold on, Nick. You just said something.
And that's the reason
your belief is that who somebody is sleeping with is the fabric of society?
Yeah, it is. It actually is.
Oh, so what if I don't like the fact?
The fabric of society.
Wait, Nick. Yeah. So let's run this rabbit hole real quick. Now, what if I don't like the fact that who you married and who you sleep with isn't the right person I believe you should be with? That's the fabric of society. You're saying that I should be concerned who you sleep with.
Too bad.
No, Nick, that's what you're saying is I should be concerned who you sleep with. I don't think you should sleep with your wife anymore. I think you should sleep with somebody else.
Well, too bad. You lost. You're in the minority.
Too bad. Then wait a second. Why is it too bad for me? Why is it too bad for me, but you're okay attacking others for what they
Hold on a
sleep
second. Both Jacoby and Nick, I got a question for you because you made a very blanket statement. I don't like blanket statements. I've never liked blanket statements, even though I might make some every once in a while myself and everything. But if I heard you correctly, you just said it, and there are many of them in the world. I've got friends of mine that are in this category and everything. But you just said that you have a problem, Nick, with single mothers of children. What is your problem with single mothers? Because that makes no sense to me.
Okay. Here's the problem I have with I'm a single mom, and like that's great and wonderful. It isn't great and wonderful. It means you probably made a mistake, and you made a mistake with choosing your first partner who's not supporting you. Okay, and now you're a single mom. It's not like you did something wonderful. Okay, and to promote that is ridiculous. It's just like promoting transgender. I'm a transgender, like that's wonderful.
God.
It's not wonderful. You know,
all right, so
let's get real. You know,
trans is a garbage issue. Trans Trans is a
Because you
distraction.
chose
Trans
wrongly.
is a freaking distraction. When the Republicans start talking about trans, it means they're picking your pocket. So while you're talking about trans, the Senate Republicans are further messing with their big beautiful bill, where they just raised the amount of they just raised the amount of public lands they're going to sell to developers from 120 million acres to 250 million acres, which is 390,000 square miles of public parks and wilderness sold to rich guys. When you hear,
I
Here's
agree with
here's
you.
something even worse than Rick. Here's something worse.
I do have an
Hold on,
announcement
Nick.
for you.
Let me help.
Okay,
Let
go
me
ahead.
let me
Then
let me
I'll
point this
actually
out
bring
real quick.
something important to Toby.
Okay, I'm gonna bring something important to you because
Please.
what I'm saying, what I'm trying to point out to you is how bogus your argument is. Because Rick points out that it is just a distraction, but also you don't realize how bigoted it is. Because one, you're saying the trans issue is about, hey, we're going to protect women. Oh, we got to protect women. Yet you are bashing single mothers, calling them all these different types of names. But I haven't heard you say a thing about single fathers. You don't understand how somebody ends up single, the life story that they may have. There could be a tragic death, but now you're condemning that single mother. But again, you're not condemning the single father. You don't seem to care about transgender men, but you only seem to care about you don't care about the transgender men because you're saying protect women. Well, according to you, that transgender man is still a woman, and that woman now has to play in the sports. So your whole argument is basically confused and bogus. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but you're just saying words because you think the words make sense, but they don't.
No, I mean, I'm okay with it. That's a friendly amendment, Jacoby. I'd agree with you. I'm a single man. It's not something to be favorable, and neither is that I'm a transgender man or
When
woman.
are you going to
I'm
shame
going to
single
compete the other
fathers?
person's
Hold on a
sport.
second. Kim has a point she wants to make as well. So, Kim, what were you
I
here
am
to say?
so not interested in that. Okay.
Kim,
When are you going
Kim,
to
has-
shame single
we got the
fathers
one
the way
woman
you're
here and
shaming
everything.
single
So,
mothers?
Kim has a point she wants to make. So, Kim, what were you going to say?
I mean, my only point is that they blame and shame women, love to shame them, and they, pat men on the back. But you're absolutely right, Jacoby. They sit there and call women all these names and single moms and say that they're horrible and they're not, able to raise a family, but not one word was said about a single dad. And I think that this is nothing but hype and junk to draw your attention over here and argue. But my argument would be, well, you know what? Let's shame the single dads too. But they're not going to do that because it's men who are doing it. And then they get their wives to do it because, single women are shameful.
so
But
man, people are
you
talking.
can't shame women and then build men up. You just, I'm
You
sorry.
notice
People are
Nick
talking
said-
out of both sides of their mouths because on the one hand, the number of single moms is way down versus previous decades, and people are saying we're not making enough babies here, which we were only making 80% as many babies as we need to keep a stable population.
Well, the thing is that women are now being used as incubators. They don't care if you're dead or alive now. They're going to force you to have the baby. And if you lose the baby because you were out playing sports, they're going to throw you in prison. So women are being used as incubators. I predicted this over a year, maybe a year and a half ago, that this is where the Republicans wanted to put us, or the MAGAs, not Republicans. I like to divide that just a little bit more, and the right wing radical crazies, but MAGAs. So I just want to make sure we all understand that we got to stop shaming women and faming men for the same things. That's it.
Yeah.
So in 2010, so let John go, then I'll go.
Yeah, John
just one point. It's very revealing that Nick said he has a problem with single moms. He didn't say single parents, single moms. He didn't say a word about single dads. He doesn't have a problem with single dads, maybe. Maybe he does. But what he said, he has a problem with single moms. Very, very revealing.
All right, so
I need to report on this. Here's the reason why I said that, John, is that you don't see, and I'll have to agree with Kim, it's not equal. You don't see somebody getting up on television saying, I'm a single dad, okay? But that's the reason I agree
Yes,
with
you do. That's a lie.
TV show
I
around
agree
that.
Yeah, I mean,
agree with you.
Nick, you just said a lie right
I know
there.
it's really hard for you to believe this. I agree with you. They're not treated equally. Yet I agree with you. They should be treated equally because there's no power in saying I'm a single dad. They just don't seem to show that on TV. Now
There's a TV show about it.
They always show I'm a single mom.
There's a legit TV show about it.
I would like to stop that. It's like I'm a transgender person. I'm tired of listening to that.
And Nick,
Right,
Nick,
but I'll
Nick,
tell
hold on
you
a second.
that-
There've been entire
If I
TV
have
shows.
an
I want to get to Rick to, but there've been
Will you
entire
give me
TV
another-
shows for
Will you give me
decades
another
about single
report?
dads.
Will you
There've been
give me the
entire shows for
You
decades.
mentioned,
You guys will like to talk.
I mean,
Okay.
Nick, you just
One
making
minute.
stuff up
They're
now.
gonna-
you know,
They're
wait,
not-
wait, wait, let me come in on
Americans.
Kim mentioned crazy anti-abortion laws in some states. The crazy happened in 2010 when Republicans figured out that they should take over state houses. Now, state legislatures, it sounds like the most boring job in the world, that you go to your state capital and you do legislation there. It doesn't pay that well, and it's podunk. But the Republicans figured out that, yeah, this sounds like goofy little jobs in being a state senator. But that if you take over the state houses, you can determine, you can start setting the laws. So they did a thing called Red Map. Red Map means try to turn the state maps of all these legislatures red with Republicans, and Republicans took over 3/4 of the state legislatures. And starting then in 2010 with this push, they started moving the crazies into the state houses to make crazy laws that scare the shit out of doctors. So if you show up with a pregnancy related issue, they may not treat you because they don't want to, lose their license.
That makes sense.
Oh,
Hey,
okay.
hey,
Now
Nick,
I can
Nick,
talk,
hold on a
right?
second.
Just one
Nick, I got
minute.
a question.
Do I get
When's
one
the
minute?
last time? Nick,
Let Nick talk.
no, I was going to let him
I
talk. I do
actually
have a
have
question
something
for him.
important to
This
say,
may
Mark.
put
Hello?
context into what he's saying and everything. But my
Okay.
question is, how long have you been watching TV? Because ever since I can go back to Andy Griffin, I can go back before Andy Griffin. There've been single dads on TV for decades.
Okay, I would have to say, since I'm the oldest person in the group, I've been watching TV longer than the rest of you.
Yeah, but
However-
they gave fame to those dads. But,
Right.
God forbid a woman be single in this country and struggle because she doesn't make the same equal income as men, and she's not given the same opportunities and rights to earn an equal income.
Okay.
And God forbid a woman make a choice of her own body because she knows that she can't handle a baby in her life. And yeah, you know what? She didn't use contraceptives, so the man didn't either. But what if the man's not stepping up to the plate? So here, let's change the rules, Nick. For every baby that is born, the men who are responsible for their babies, they have to cough up the money straight out of their paycheck before taxes.
But
Before
there are
taxes,
laws
they
that
have to
do
pay a
that.
percentage of their check for not
That's-
using a condom. There you
I
go.
would
That's
have
the
no
law.
problem
And
with that.
That's actually the law, but you just got to haul the guy into court and get him to take a DNA test. And
Yeah,
yeah,
DNA
that-
test. Okay.
but
Just-
Mark is right. One of the laziest sitcom tropes is to get rid of the mom and give you a single dad. And
I mean,
that automatically puts the viewer on the side of the dad, because what a swell guy having to struggle, be the breadwinner and the dad. And yeah, that has been a sitcom trope for the whole history of sitcoms.
let me point out and help Nick out, because he wants to sit here and say, oh, well, you're just making this all up. And Nick wants to go back to the days where he was young. Well, Bonanza was about a single dad. That's your age. Bonanza was a single dad.
Yeah.
Let's see who else. Give Me a Break was a single dad.
Yeah.
Finding Nemo was a single dad.
It shows you how bad
Everwood,
Hollywood is. I
Blossom,
agree with you.
Love to Roam with Love, Touch,
He needs to
Raising
get
Hope.
married.
Mayberry was about a single
I
dad.
know. This is very bad.
Daughter
for
Just
America.
Like You. All these were Better Off Ted. I mean, there's so many single dad shows, but yet again, who did you just blame and call and condemn with single mom?
But like I said,
and then you said there's nothing about single
as a
dad.
friendly
Again,
amendment.
that's the cognitive dissonance that you're actually
I accept
putting
it
on
as a
display.
friendly amendment, you know. But in all those shows, none of them. Show me one of them where they jumped up and said, "I'm a single dad."
All of them.
Bonanza, Full House,
No.
all of them said it. Every single one.
Bonanza?
Yes.
I never
Yes.
saw
Yes.
that.
Bonanza, who was a
Okay.
single dad.
Now, while you liberals
Genie
are
House,
obsessed, I don't know why you
Daddy
liberals
Lunchbox,
are obsessed.
Two Dads, Secret House, Apple of My Eye,
Marriage.
Bronx.
Jacoby and I are both looking at the list. My Three Sons from 1960.
Yeah, I remember that.
Shameless,
I
2011.
agree with you, Toby.
There are
Hollywood
dozens.
being bad for
Listen.
America. Fred McMurray needed to get married and have a spouse. This is horrible. I agree with you.
The courtship of Eddie's father.
Well, Eddie's
1968.
father needed to get married and have a spouse. This is Hollywood putting their
The Tony
agenda on the
Danza
American
show.
public.
Hello,
Ooh.
Larry.
My Little
Yeah,
Margie,
Hollywood, that's all I
1952.
agree.
Gidget,
I
1965.
agree. This was bad. Toby, you're preaching to the choir. I totally agree with you. This is
But
again,
hey, Nick, I got a question. Nick, hold on a second.
Hollywood.
I got a question for
Preaching
you.
the
This is for
wrong
both of you.
message to
Hold on. I
America.
got a question for you and for Kim as well. Isn't part of the problem that there is a double standard? Because I have gone and I've got friends in the religious community and everything, and a lot of times they are like you. They're very critical of the women that have kids in the church, but then they oftentimes will, behind closed doors, tell the guys to, I'm gonna borrow a song from a R&B world. They'll tell them go basically shop around. So that's actually coming from the pulpit, even though it might not be a direct message. It is a kind of unwritten message.
I don't disagree with you. Now, are you guys interested in what I'm responding to Rick Rosner about?
But wait, one more show. Flipper. They didn't have a mom, but they had a dolphin.
They had a dolphin.
Okay. Rick,
Daddy Dearest.
can I respond to you? I know you guys love to talk. I know you guys love to talk, but I could have just
go ahead.
for 1
Go
minute.
ahead. Go ahead.
This is to answer Rick Rosner had a question about viewership. Okay.
Okay.
And I know how to expand the viewership. Now, first of all, I'm going to put his name up. This is the gentleman I'm talking to. You guys will love him. He's the CEO of Newsmax, Christopher Ruddy. Do anybody here know who he is?
No, but I know the channel. I know that they're a right-leaning news channel.
Then I'm going to ask you, since this progressive wing is so ignorant of the right, and you guys are very ignorant of the right, to go onto your Google search engines and find Newsmax and Christopher Ruddy. I have been talking to him. Okay. And I know you don't get it, Jacoby, but the thing is, our interests are aligned in terms of expanding us into cable network. And he has a cable network company. Go look at Christopher Ruddy and Newsmax. Now I'm going to invite him on, but probably not to this show, because you guys would get in a fight and he wouldn't be able to speak a word, but I'll probably get him on to David Walker's show in the next couple weeks.
Okay.
But that would give us a entree to where you guys want to go, which to have a lot more listeners. Okay, Rick, you probably already found him. Who's Christopher Ruddy and what's Newsmax?
Well, he's all right. So, like, if you were going to have Hannity on, it would be annoying. But Hannity's a college dropout. This Ruddy guy graduated summa cum laude with a degree in history from St. John's, master's degree in public policy from the London School of Economics, Hebrew University of Jerusalem. So this is a guy, he's, conservative as heck, but at least he won't be talking out of his ass because he's not some dropout dipshit like Charlie Kirk. He's not a proud junior college dropout like Matt Walsh. He's a guy who probably knows his shit. And we'd probably be frustrated with him because he'd make good conservative arguments, but that's part of the fun of frickin' TV.
That's part of the fun of TV.
Now,
Like I said,
also, go look at the stock of Newsmax. Look at the stock and the history of Newsmax.
Well, I mean, Newsmax is doing well and everything.
Newsmax is a very conservative show. We get it. It's growing at this moment.
You're always looking at conservative liberals. I'm looking at the Green Party, my friend. I know that's foreign to you. I'm a member of the Green Party.
And so I'm pointing out to you, yes, we understand who the individual is. We understand why it's making money right now. It's the reason why Candace Owens decided that she was going to go down that route as well. And why Candace Owens found that shtick that, hey, I'm going to say all this bigoted stuff and people are going to buy into it. And I'll be the black person that every white person can point to justify how they feel bad or how they feel racist. I get that. That's where they get, that's Jason Whitlock. That's all the other stuff. So I get that and what you're talking about, the Green Party, how you're looking at your money. So yeah, Christopher Ruddy, yes, he said some things that were pretty bad. He's also, yes, all the stuff that Rick said, but I'm sure, yeah, he'd get very frustrated because, yeah, on this channel, being the pushback that he would get because he wouldn't, he's a rich person and rich people don't like to be pushed back.
I don't know. I feel like if people are well versed in their fields, they're okay with like jousting with other people.
No, I mean most people are.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I would invite you to go look at the history of Newsmax and also follow the stock on that.
Newsmax is down 70% since 5 years ago.
But if you follow the stock, at least my research, Rick, it was actually had a valuation when they went public greater than Fox. I don't know how they got that valuation, but it did. And now it's down quite a bit. But if you look at Newsmax, they distribute in an area that we do not distribute on, which is cable network, which is a real pain to do distributions on. And we distribute a lot on streaming services all over the bloody place, which they don't tend to distribute on. So anyway, I'm talking to him to get on one of our shows. I'll probably put him on David Walker's to start with.
I mean, by that,
whether he'll actually want to show up to World Edition is another question. Where you have a group of.
But this is a guy who makes like business. Like, would he want to waste his time like wrangling with us? You know, for an hour. That's a valuable hour to this guy.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But he's already agreed to come on one of our shows. So the thing is, I just got to find out
when he shows up. I'll have a guest on this show today, and for some reason he couldn't make it from Great Britain. We'll see if he comes on later and everything. But I mean, we can get folks from different sources. As I know you're not the biggest fan of NPR, Nick, but there's a whole network called Pacifica, and they're out actually near where Rick is and everything. So we can bring some even people that make our liberalism, or what you say is liberal, look mild and everything. Because I actually consider myself more liberal to moderate and everything. So definitely, we can bring in folks from Newsmax. We can bring folks in from Pacifica. We can bring them in from a number of networks that are out there.
From Pacifica. So it would be very interesting to listen to.
This Sunday, Mark, if you're available, JD and I want to try a variation of Naked at Night called Quantum Hollywood, where we'd have a specific focus, which is on AI and its impact on entertainment and the rest of the frickin' world. And it won't just be us yelling at Lance and Lance yelling back. We will try to...
I'm definitely open to that and everything, and actually, because I know, and I'm not going to speak for him because I don't know what games they got, and I don't want to speak for the man. But Jacoby's also in the AI space, so and he sometimes is up late as well. And so, Jacoby, are you up for being up around midnight for that particular show?
No, this one will be earlier in the day because it won't be out of Lance's studio, where we won't have to drive to Torrance.
Okay, so are you open for that?
What impact are they going to have on the entertainment? What's your thought?
What's that? Say again.
What impact are you guys going to have on entertainment?
Well, because AI is costing people jobs, and AI is eventually going to outthink us. And what does that mean? Is AI going to like one area that every single movie, like Mission Impossible 8, has AI taking over the world's nukes, and that's along with like 8 other movies that have pretty much the same point. That how do you have a world where AI is running things and we have 4,000 nuclear weapons? That's a terrible situation. So that's one thing that has to be looked at. I'm not qualified to look at it, but I'm not sure anybody else is either, because nobody knows exactly what AI is going to do. But we do know that AI companies are spending tens of billions of bucks to make AI more and more powerful. Those guys don't know what's going to happen either. And at the very least, we should be talking about it. Jatovi, are you available?
No, I think you're right. Are you telling me that I can replace Jatovi with an AI machine, and can we program it to be super progressive? But he's already programmed that way. But
there's an argument going on. Like, people are pissed at Grok AI, which is Twitter, which is Elon Musk's AI. They say it all of a sudden turned woke. And they're all the conservatives like Cat Turd are pissed at Grok right now. There's another AI that lives on Twitter called Doge AI, and it's been trained to give a conservative reply to tweets. And its replies are really
too? Because Gemini's on Google, I think that's AI too, if I remember.
Yeah, but, and Doge AI, its responses piss me off, but they are good conservative responses. It's been trained well. So
it's been trained well. Actually, we've got to see you popping up toward the end of everything. I do have to tease Nick about something that along those lines. We were talking earlier about single dads, and sometimes the single dads, we're not 100% sure that they were single. But I'm thinking as much. I'm gonna borrow a word from Rick. And all along those lines, but I'm thinking as much banging as James Bond was doing. He probably was a single dad at some point or another. He couldn't have been that escaped and dodged the bullet as much as he did with as many times as he was on the air.
So in the last James Bond movie, the last movie Daniel Craig did, he indeed was not a single dad, but he was a dad. He had a daughter that he found out about, and that propelled the end of the movie, where some stuff happened around his he decided he wanted to have a wife and a kid and a family, and then some stuff happened, and so James Bond finally did reproduce.
He did finally reproduce. I was going to say, as much as he could get with those different women, I was thinking there had to be some reproducing going on there. Hey, Sharif, what's going on over there in Malaysia? I know we've only got a few more minutes.
He's not in Malaysia. He's in Bangladesh.
You mean Bangladesh?
He's in that
big
right now. 171 million.
Everything fine. Bangladesh is preparing for election. This is interesting. Besides that, I shared the idea of global talent show. I think Saturday I had a show, definitely with Pacific Rim Business Council for Business Innovations. One of the famous singer, her name is Mehri. Yeah, one of the famous singer from Bangladesh. She gonna join in this Saturday show. She is very popular, very, very popular. So, Bangladesh has a lot of population, so she has a lot of followers. So I just started my activities for Global Talent Show. Definitely we may launch next month. But before that, we want to bring all of the talented people, popular peoples from South Asia. My major target is South Asia. I also request my people in Bollywood, in India, because I have my president, World Talent Economic Forum president in India and in Pakistan and other country. So hopefully this show will be very interesting. And I request Mr. Nick, if you send me some of your valuable partner. I just only remember the Duke University, another one you said from France. I don't know.
France list is in Hungary.
Okay.
Well, not just that, but Nick, is there any possibility that we can get back in touch? I'm not in touch with her anymore, but maybe Cami is with Alexandria May. She was out of South Africa.
Yeah. And South Asian people has, especially Bangladesh and South Asian people has interest about Hollywood. I don't know, Rick, or you can do something, some famous people or producers or something for the show. Maybe it can bring a very good audience. Rick, you can join.
Rick lives in that sewer called Los Angeles.
No, not that, but his friend JD is actually a musician, and maybe JD can be on that same show and everything, because he is a very talented musician, because he's always on Naked at Night.
Yeah, JD can come up with music for you at a moment's notice, and it's really good. But let me defend LA. LA is a hardworking city. The bars often close down at midnight because people have to get up and go to work, or at least look for work in the morning. New York, if you want a sewer, New York City, where the bars go till 5 a.m. LA, we go to sleep so we can go to work.
Hey, speaking of going to sleep, I've got a question for you. Hold on a second, and this is for you, because I did. Speaking of work, I was up late last night watching.
And Mark,
hold on a second,
one thing,
because this has to do with the talent showcase and everything.
We need some commercial, like some 1 minute advertisements or promo and some other things from Pod TV. I want to make it very classic, and all of the famous peoples and media and everything. I want to attract maybe some very popular people from Bollywoods, and we need some good promotion. If you help from your team, like
for the World Talent Show to get on. Okay, we can work on that, Sharif. Okay,
because actually Nick is the master of that even more than I am and everything. But what I was going to say is I was up because the woman was complaining because she was doing.
Nick is superstar in Bangladesh. He do not understand. He should visit Bangladesh and he should visit.
I would like to see a superstar in Bangladesh.
You are a superstar with your Pod TV, but you do not understand your superstar.
Can we go back to James Bond for a second? Because I wanted. So I looked it up. They never the kind of sex he had, they never showed whether he got oral or anything. But the deal is that after World War II, England was broke. They spent their whole empire, all their money fighting World War II. And for 20, 30 years after World War II, life in England was bleak. And James Bond, one reason James Bond was popular was because James Bond got to go to fancy countries like Jamaica and eat fancy food, and the British, who are eating shit and living under gray skies, liked seeing a guy having a nice time in nice places in the world.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason Britain had to give up the Indian Empire, because they just couldn't handle all that. Okay, but the World Talent Show I think would be a good thing, and Sharif, if you give me. I need names, I need bios and email addresses, because we're probably going to only have like 16 slots for people on the first round. So, I need to make sure I know who they are, because we're going to promote them prior to the show.
No, hold on a second. When you say 16 slots, are they going to play a video and then we're going to do like American Idol where people are voting for them? How is that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The people are going to be voting. We're not going to vote. They're going to vote. To move them up to the next round, so it's similar like what they have, Mark, on the college football series. They have 16 teams that participate, so we have 16 slots for the talent show, and then that's it. And then there's only one winner at the end of the talent show.
But I'm saying,
if he's got somebody from Bangladesh, we need to know the name, bio, email, contact information, so we can get that person on board. And then they're going to have some pretty stiff competition worldwide. Anytime you do worldwide competition, some of these people probably are really going to be really good at what they do.
Yeah. Professor, I have one proposal. Because if you see Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, there are a lot of talent, honestly speaking.
Sure.
16 show, it's very small. Let's say 171 million people. You only give opportunity to 16 people or 16 team. I want to, let's say, how you run your Pod TV. If we think in that way, let's say Bangladesh or India or Pakistan has around 300 university. So we request this university, they organize these activities in their university.
Mm-hmm.
Then from there, they choose 1 or 3 talented, and they send it to the World Global Talent Show. It maybe give them exposure, right? What happened? Naturally, any show or any competition happen. After that, they are no more. I saw many talented die through this process. But if we give them try for support, let's say through this show, next 1 year, how we run last 5 years, this Pod TV, if we give them an ecosystem, a smart ecosystem, a great exposure, then they will not die. But naturally, different shows and activities happen in Bangladesh, and after the show, they are no more.
Well, no. Actually, you brought up a good point. There is life after our shows, because remember, we have a lot of broadcasting opportunities once they have won the show, or even if they lost the show, Sharif. So it can expand based on their popularity. This is just what we're doing with the 16 group, is just to get this off the ground. Once it's off the ground and they won the show, we can give them more opportunities in terms of exposure on an international basis. So it's not like, we're not like traditional media. You're one, done, slam, bam, thank you, ma'am. Come on, Sharif, we're better.
Yeah.
You know, so
I know that.
Yeah. This is just to get it started, because right now we do not run any World Talent Show. But the World Talent Show takes me off the air, which John would love. And so I can't argue him about the liberal conservative garbage. Instead, it actually produces something positive for the world, which is something that you like, Sharif. So, but trust me, there's plenty of time that we can sit and argue about politics. This is
one university. It's called IUT. They have all of the brilliant people from 57 Muslim countries. It's part of OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperations. They are working with me. I think their professors will join tomorrow's show. And I share the idea of global talent. I find, even though they are from Muslim country, but they are very, very interested. So we have a chance to make it.
Okay, right. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, and this would be also good for universities like Duke University to display their talent against whoever the university in Bangladesh is. It's a win-win situation for everybody. You know, the World Talent or Global Talent Show, however you want to call it. And like I said, we can expand it. We're just getting it off the ground. And once we get off the ground, we can expand it beyond that. So that's kind of like the name of the game, I think. We're past the hour. Speaking of which, we're out of time. And Jacoby's not here. Usually I cut him off, but he's not here, so I can't even cut him off. Rats.
See you tomorrow.
Oh, well. Not fun anymore.
You just don't have any more fun. Sorry.
Sorry.